I'm not sure that you're aware, but in the last 2 decades, plastic production has more than doubled as opposed to the early 2000s. Now, in the same vein, plastic now accounts for more than 2 billion gigatons of carbon emission. Now, that might not seem like a lot, but to put it in perspective for you, this is like 1.2 million the size of Amaro Stadium full to the brim. That might seem like a very large number, but what happens if that goes all the way down to 0%? Over the last few years, I've transitioned from someone who was clueless and didn't know about the adverse effect of climate change and also plastic pollution to someone who is actively advocating and working on plastic pollution and creating an end to that. But you might ask me, why exactly, of all the things I could care about, did I choose to care about plastic pollution? Well, I'm glad you asked. I mean, technically you didn't ask, but I'm going to tell you. So I'll give you a bit of a backstory. When I was in my second year at the University of Port Harcourt in Nigeria, if you've ever been to Nigeria, you can't miss it. It's a small community that plays host to lots of students at the University of Port Harcourt. And I lived in a town called Alu. So I lived in the self-con. So basically, if you don't know what the self-con is, it is a room, a bathroom, and a kitchen. And that was more or less enough for students at the time. And there were also families who lived there because they couldn't afford normal apartments. So they live in this self-contained. And one of those families was the parents of little Ibrahim. So on this fateful day, I think it was on a Monday evening, I had just finished my engineering 210 class, I think. So I was coming back from class, and then I saw a commotion in front of my compound. I just gotten down from a keke. If you don't know what a keke is, that is a tricycle, more or less. So I walked up to the crowd to know what exactly was happening. And then I found out that there was a child lying down on the floor. To give you a bit of background context about what you might not have known, so every month or every few months, there's a refuse opposite my compound that gets burnt to reduce the pile. And normally, I usually find it very annoying and mildly inconvenient because when it gets burnt, the fumes comes into my room, and then I have to use like 2 or 3 air fresheners to get it out. But on this particular day, little Ibrahim was outside playing, and his parents were not home. They were at work. I found out little Ibrahim had an attack, and he had an asthma case. Ibrahim was rushed to the hospital, but unfortunately, on getting there, he was pronounced dead. Now, did the refuse being burnt cause Ibrahim's death? Did he have like an underlying condition? Did the underlying condition cause that? We will never know that. But the one thing I know from what I heard from those who were there that day was that Ibrahim was outside and he was playing. And the refuse was being burnt outside. So you can put 2 and 2 together and see where that goes. I began to do my research into what exactly could have caused this. And then it led me down to the part of plastic pollution. I found out that plastic, when burnt, produces harmful fumes that are harmful to the human body. For example, bisphenol A and styrene, when burnt respectively, either causes issues to respiratory organs or can lead to cancer. After finding this out, it wasn't necessarily all about Ibrahim anymore. I was thinking, how could I prevent this from happening to someone else in the future? So at the time, as a student, there wasn't very much I could do about it, but I knew that I needed to do something about it. So I decided to use the youth platform I found. So I joined the Young African Leadership Initiative, YALI River State Hub, which was a organization started by the former US President Barack Obama to contribute to the next generation of African leaders. I also joined AIESEC, which I joined as a member in 2019 and rose up the rank to now leading country operations here in Rwanda's branch. The following year, in 2021, I got selected as an Oceans champion by the Race for Oceans Foundation to work on a project around coastal areas in Nigeria. I chose the Borokiri area to work on because If you're familiar with Nigeria, you know that it plays host to a very large percentage of oil-producing states. And Rivers State is one of that. Borokiri area was filled with oil spillage and a lot of plastic pollution that affected marine life. The SDG project was aimed at bringing awareness to SDG 14, life underwater. I never forget what one of the people who were there told me during our advocacy project. He was like, bros, how you want make I take care about plastic when I never chop? So for those of you who are not familiar with the Nigerian pidgin English, it basically and roughly translates to, brother, how do you want me to care about plastic or climate change when I haven't eaten? Now, for many people, that is their reality. When you haven't met the most basic of needs, it's very difficult to care about a global issue. Yes, my advocacy was solving the issue of bringing awareness to these people, but what exactly was it doing to solve the economic divide that that plastic pollution was creating in these communities? So I decided to ask myself, how much better can I do something about this? Yes, I was doing advocacy, but what else could I do about this? So the number 9 is recycling. So number 9 represents the amount of plastic that has ever been recycled, ever produced. Now, if you think about that, another 22% either ends up being mismanaged and then either goes to landfills or gets burned or ends up in water bodies. Let's not even talk about the issues of microplastic and what it causes to the human body. So this will later form a basis of what I do now. A couple of years ago, I think 2 years ago in 2023, I was at a training seminar in Nigeria. I met an alumnus of AIESEC. His name was Elliot. What was Elliot doing? Elliot was building a platform that could bring people together to recycle their waste and in return for financial incentive. For me, this was the missing piece I felt was not there. People using what used to be a nuisance for them to bridge the economic divide that plastic pollution was causing. And what made this remarkable was that people could recycle the plastic, get return for it, and it was also creating a behavioral change in people as regards recycling. Yes, plastic was solving issues, but was it solving all the issue? We can only do so much with recycling. Like 9% is not a lot. But I will give you some of the facts of what we have been able to do. In 2024, we were able to pay over $10,000 to our customers in payouts for those who recycle their plastic. And on an average, in 2024, we were recycling over 70 tons of plastic bottles. That was plastic that was being divided from landfills. Now, if you take it down to a micro level, what was it doing for our customers? I'll give you an example of one of our customers. Her name was Destiny. So Destiny earns an average of $30 per month where she used to work at a hotel. But when she joined the TrashCoin platform, she more than doubled that to 2 or 3 times the amount. Now, if you're in Nigeria, you know that that is a very huge sum to augment the cost of living right now. It might not seem that plastic is doing a lot, and the path to being a plastic change or climate action activist doesn't necessarily have to be so straight. For me, it started with a tragic event, unfortunately, of a little boy who died. And then it led me down to research. And then I found my path in advocacy and in working on recycling. For you, the path might be different. I leave you with this. How can plastic or recycling be the change that you need in your community to bridge the economic divide? How can what used to be a nuisance in your community turn around and help prepare people and build their resilience in a way that prepares them for the impact of climate change? As always, the solutions to this doesn't have to be so profound. From my experience, the best and practical ways to solve issues like this are the simplest and the most effective way. Thank you very much.